Today, we will talk about yoga, which existed in ancient Atlantis among the Atlanteans inhabiting it. Atlantis was an archipelago consisting of two large islands. Situated in the Atlantic Ocean near the Mediterranean Sea. On those islands, there existed the highly developed civilization of the Atlanteans. The most important point about this civilization is that it possessed the true religious philosophical knowledge. Which allowed many people to advance quickly in their development up to the divine level. However, with time, the spiritual culture of Atlantis degraded. And as a result, the power in the country was taken over by aggressive people who preferred black magic and dominion over others than the principles of the true spiritual development.
В частности, они стали активно и интенсивно развивать черную магию. Ради чего? Ради господства над другими людьми.
Then God made the islands of Atlantis sink into the ocean.
Атлантиду в океан.
But a certain number of Atlanteans
Некоторое количество атлантов,
who reached the spiritual heights
были
were warned by God in advance about this,
предупреждены об этом.
and they moved to Egypt and a number of other countries.
В Египет и ряд других стран.
This allowed the highest spiritual knowledge of the Atlanteans to exist for a long time for the benefit of God and people. In the pyramids of South America, Dr. M. Doriel discovered ancient writings composed by Thoth the Atlantean.
которые назывались изумрудными скрижалями.
They are called the Emerald Tablets.
Thothом Атлантом. В начале
In the beginning of the text,
этого текста
Thoth the Atlantean describes the reason for the destruction of Atlantis, namely, the confidential knowledge was imparted to unworthy people, and the latter began to use it for evil purposes. They also began to make bloody sacrifices, and this resulted in incarnations of hellish beings among people. When the destruction of Atlantis happened,
острова,
2 islands submerged into the ocean, one after another, according to the divine will.
а сам
Thoth the Atlantean moved to Egypt, Kem, with a group of other Divine Atlanteans.
в Египет, который тогда назывался Кхем. Далее
Then
Тот
Thoth
рассказывает,
relates
как он сам
that he had traveled the entire path to mergence with the primordial
до
consciousness.
слияния с изначальным. И он говорит,
He
что
writes
этот
that
путь
anyone
пройти
can
каждый,
traverse this path.
но
This path necessarily contains
планирован
obstacles,
изначальным так, чтобы
which create
предоставить
difficulties for travelers.
испытания в виде трудностей для идущих этим путем. Эти
These
трудности
difficulties
остановят
prevent
слабых,
weak,
этически
ethically unworthy,
недостойных и
or
интеллектуально
intellectually immature
несостоятельных.
people from going further.
Тот
Go,
говорил, идите, но не
but do
берите
not
с
take
собой
with you the
немудрых,
unwise,
не искренних
insincere, and weak,
и
says Thoth.
Тот также
Thoth
дает
gives
простейшие
basic
рекомендации
recommendations
для
for initial harmonization
организации
of the chakra
чакр.
system.
И
For fulfilling these specific recommendations,
что результатом этого будут только лишь этого. Будут
he promises
и
health and
здоровье,
longevity.
и долголетие. Подчеркнув,
I
что
emphasize
чакрами
that the work with chakras
это
is only the very beginning
самое
of the
начало
spiritual path.
серьезного большого духовного пути. Это
It is
всего
just
лишь
the
уровень
level
Раджа-йоги.
of Raja Yoga,
Хотя
whereas
духовные высоты
the spiritual
достигаются
heights are taken on a huge
ступенью
step called
догматной
Buddhi
ступени,
Yoga.
которая называется будхи-йогой. И вот
On the higher
на
stages of meditative practices,
ступенях медитативных практик, то есть в
that
рамках
is, on the
будхи-йоги,
stage of Buddhi Yoga,
тот
one
учит
has to
нырять
dive with
в
the
сознание,
consciousness
в глубины
into the depths of the
многомерного
multidimensional
пространства
space
и
and cognize
познавать
the star worlds there,
все звездные миры, то есть
that is,
эон
the eon of
протопрокрити.
Proto-Prakriti.
Обо всем об
You
этом
can read all of it
подробно
exhaustively in the
и
book
исчерпывающе можно прочитать в
Eco-Psychology.
нашей книге «Экопсихология». Затем,
Then there,
там
in the
же,
depths
в
of the
глубинах
multidimensional
многомерного
space,
пространства,
the
познается
light is
свет
cognized from the great
великого
divine fire.
огня, от божественного огня. И также там
There are
есть
also other spaces there.
пространства, другие
In appearance,
пространства,
they are
которые
empty,
с виду пусты, но
but the keys
прячутся
are hidden
в
in them.
пути. Еще что очень
Thoth
важно,
also explains one of the higher meditations,
один из вариантов подробно
the
объясняет, один из
temple
вариантов
and its
медитации
particular
храма,
variation,
именно пирамиду.
the pyramid.
О собственном
About the
восхождении
history of his own spiritual ascent,
тот
Thoth says the following.
говорил следующее. И я сейчас зачитаю его слова. Однажды
Once in a
времена
time long
давно
forgotten,
забытые, я,
I, Thoth,
открыв
opened the
врата,
doorway,
проник в
penetrated
другие
into other
пространства
spaces,
незваные
and learned
и
of the secrets
изучил
concealed.
тайны скрытые.
Often did I journey down the dark pathway unto the space where the light ever glows. I will repeat once again that all this will become clear from the description of the multidimensionality of the Absolute in our books. First of all, in the book Eco-Psychology. Long then dwelt I in the temple of the primordial, until at last I was one with the light. Thoth gives the following directions to spiritual seekers. Preserve and keep the command of the primordial one. Look in your life for disorder and get rid of it. Balance and order your life. Quell all the chaos of emotions, and you shall have harmony in life. I will comment that this chaos of emotions can be destroyed precisely through the work with the chakras, since emotions are born namely in the chakras. And the radical control of emotions as states of the consciousness is achieved only through the development of the functions of the chakras. Details of this system were described by us in many books, and the last of them is Eco-Psychology. Conquer by silence the bondage of words. Keep ever your eyes on the light. Know my commandments. Keep them and fulfill them, and I will be with you, helping and guiding you into the light. Out of the darkness shall you rise upward, one with the light. I must comment that the mentioned light is the divine light. That is, the term light means God. Man has to strive to become the divine Son. That is, the very Son about which Jesus spoke, which is the Son of God. What does it mean, the Son of God? This is the infinite ocean of the Creator that looks like the light of the material sun, but only an infinite number of times larger than the sun that we see in the sky. Follow this path, and you shall be one with the All, with the Absolute. Light comes only to him who strives. Hard is the pathway that leads to the wisdom. Hard is the pathway that leads to the light. Many shall you find the stones in your pathway, many the mountains to climb toward the light. Man, know that always beside you walk the messengers of light. Open to all is their pathway, to all who are ready to walk into the light.
Они
They are messengers of light to shine among men.
сияют среди людей. Подобны
Like man are they,
людям,
and yet
и в то же
are
время
unlike.
не подобны им. Здесь имеется в
Here,
виду
we have in mind the embodied representatives of the Holy Spirit.
точнее,
More
представители
precisely,
Творца,
the representatives of the Creator,
которых
the primordial,
Святыми Духами,
which are called the Holy Spirits,
Святым Духом.
and collectively the Holy Spirit.
Много
Know
мрачных
that many
теней
dark
падут
shadows
на
shall
твой
fall on your light,
стремясь погасить
striving to quench with the shadows of darkness the light of the soul that strives to be free.
быть свободной. Множество
Many the
ловушек
pitfalls that lie on this way.
Стремись же
Seek
всегда
ever to
познать
gain greater wisdom.
мудрость. Постигай,
Cognize, and you shall know
и
the
будет
light.
тогда свет познан тобой. Свет
Light is
бесконечен.
eternal, and darkness is fleeting.
Стремись же
Seek ever, O man, for the light.
к свету. Знай, что как только свет заполнит твою
Know
сущность,
ever that as light fills your being,
тьма
darkness for you shall soon disappear.
открой
Open the soul to the messengers of light.
позволь
Let
им
them enter
войти
and
и
fill you
заполнить
with light.
тебя светом. И
Keep
забудь
ever your
взор
face
твой
to this
направленный
goal.
к сей цели всегда. Открой
Open the soul,
душу
O
всей
man, to the
вселенной,
cosmos,
и пусть
and
она
let it flow through you as one with the soul.
Эволюция
Man's
человека
evolution
состоит в
consists in the process of changing to forms that are not of this world.
Растет человек, преображаясь постепенно в бесформенное.
Grows he in time to the formless,
Для
to live on a higher plane.
Вот поясню,
I will
человек
explain
идет по
that we are talking about a consciousness
которая развита методом
that is developed by the means of Buddhi Yoga and acts regardless of the material body,
материального тела. На время
leaving it
появления
for the time of meditative work.
Слушай же,
Listen,
человек,
O man,
глаз мой,
to my voice,
объясняющий
telling
тебе
of the
путь
pathways
света
to the light,
и показывающий,
showing the way of attainment,
как ты
how you shall
должен
become one
стать
with the light.
Ищи
Search first the mysteries
в сердце
of the earth's heart.
ищи
Seek the flame
живой
of the living earth.
окунись
Bathe
в
in the
сияние
glare
пламени.
of this flame.
Знай же,
Know,
человек,
O man,
что и
you are
ты в
complex,
сути своей
a being of matter and of
существуешь
flame.
из материи и пламени. Позволь
Let your
пламени
flame,
твоему, то есть
that is,
пламени горящего
the flame
сердца.
of the burning spiritual heart.
Подробности
Details
можно
can be
посмотреть
found in the
в
book
Агни-йоге.
Teachings of Agni Yoga.
Позволь
Shine brightly.
пламени твоему светить ярко. Стань
Become just a flame.
ищи же
Seek ever more wisdom.
мудрости. Найди её
Find it
в
in the
глубинах
depths
пламени.
of the flame.
Ну, поясню,
I
что
will
синоним
explain that the synonym
этому
for this
пламени
flame
это
is the
божественный
divine
огонь.
fire.
Знай, что
Know
только
that only
стараниями
by
твоими
your
свет
striving can
наполнит
light
тебя.
pour into you.
Только тот,
Only
кто
the one
исполнился светом,
who of
тот
light
может
has the
надеяться
fullest
пройти
can
мимо
hope
стражей,
to pass by the guards of the way, who prevent unworthy people from entering it.
следует
You
тебе
shall
познать
cognize
себя
yourself as
как
light
свет, готовя
and
себя
make
для
yourself ready
продолжения
to
пути.
pass on the way.
мудрость
Wisdom is
скрыта
hidden
тьмой,
in darkness.
но когда, воссияв душой
When
пламени,
shining with soul flame,
обретешь
find
свою
you the
мудрость,
wisdom, then shall you be
то
born
станешь
again as light.
возрожденным в качестве света. И затем
And then
предельным
shall you become
размером
the divine sun.
божественным солнцем. Стань же
Grow
одно
into
с
one
Богом
with the
светом
light.
и будь проводником
Be a
божественных
channel
познаний
of divine
близких
principles to the world of men.
людей. Стремись, о человек, отыскать путь
Seek, O
великий,
man, to find the great
ведущий
pathway
к бесконечной
that leads to eternal life
через
through the image of the divine sun.
Знай, о человек,
Know, O man,
что ты
you are
есть
only a
душа,
soul.
тело — ничто.
The body is nothing.
Душа —
The
вот
soul is everything.
не позволь
Let not your
телу
body
твоему
be a fetter.
быть тебе оковой. Оставь
Cast off the darkness and travel in light.
Научись покидать тело
Learn to
свое
cast off your body, O man,
и
and be
стань
free from it.
свободным от него. Стань истинным
Become the
светом
true light,
и
and unite then
объединись
with the great light.
светом великим. То есть, в других
That is,
терминах,
in other terms,
слейся
one must merge with the Atman and then unite
параматманом.
with Paramatman.
Знай, что
Know that the space
пространство,
in which you inhabit is permeated
пронизано
also by others,
такими же
as great
великими,
as
как
Thoth
ты.
the Atlantean.
Они
They are also
пребывают
within you.
внутри тебя. Вот я
I emphasize that it is necessary to continuously draw parallels
Новым Заветом
between the New Testament
и
and the teachings of Krishna.
Бог все время говорит об одном. Во все время существования Земли, человечества на Земле,
God speaks about the same thing all the time.
люди только
Our task now is to restore
возвращаются
these
к
teachings.
истине Бога. И вот наша задача сейчас восстановить это учение. Они
They
пребывают
are also
внутри тебя,
within you,
и они
and
могут
they
быть
can be
познаны
cognized
тобою
by you
в твоем
in your spiritual
духовном
heart.
сердце. Но при
But
этом
at the
они
same time,
существуют
they
отдельно
exist
от
separately
материи,
from the world of
в
matter
их пространстве.
in their spatial dimension.
Знай, что всегда и
Know
повсюду в
that throughout
пространстве
space, the
существует
eternal
вечное
and
и
infinite consciousness
вечное
exists.
сознание. Хотя скрыто
Though
оно
from
от
superficial
взора
knowledge it is hidden,
но все же оно
yet still forever exists.
ключ к тем высшим мирам
The key to the higher worlds is within you.
он может быть
It can be
найден
found
только
only within,
поясню,
that
чтим
is,
внутри
inside the
развитого,
developed
именно
spiritual
развитого
heart.
сердца. Распахни
Open the
врата
gateway
внутри
within
себя,
you,
и ты будешь
and
жить
surely you too
истинно.
shall live the true life.
Речь идет
This
как
is
раз о
just
вратах
about the gates
духовного
of the
сердца.
spiritual heart.
Человек, ты думал, что ты
Man,
живешь,
you think that you live,
но знай,
but
что
know
твоя
that
прежняя
your former
жизнь
life can lead you
приводит
only
к
to death.
Ибо когда прикован ты к телу своему,
For as long as you are bound to your body,
для тебя
no
нет
true life
другой
exists
жизни.
for you.
Только душа, нашедшая
Only the
свободу
soul,
от
which is
материального
free
мира,
from the material world,
обладает
has life
истинной
which is
жизнью.
really true life.
Все
All
остальное
else is
только
only a bondage,
узы,
a fetter from
которых
which to
надо
be free.
освободиться. Вот этим и занимается.
This is what Buddhi Yoga does.
Не думай, что
Think not that man is born for the earthly.
хотя он и рожден,
Though born on the earth,
но
he
он
is a light-like
по
spirit.
сути своей светоподобный дух. Но
Yet,
без
without true
истинного
knowledge, he can never
он
become
никогда не
free.
сможет обрести ту свободу. Тьма
Darkness surrounds the souls seeking to be born in the light.
тьма
Darkness fetters souls.
но только
Only the one who is seeking may ever hope for freedom. Let you be the divine Son of the great light. Fulfill this, and you shall be free. The great light that fills all the cosmos is willing to help you, O man. Make you of your body a torch of light that shall shine among men. Hear and understand. The divine flame is the source of all things. All things are its manifestation. Seek to be one with the divine Son. Hold your thought on uniting the light with your human body. Let me explain that this is the path to the deification of the cells of the material body. And this is possible. Light is the source of all life. For without the great light, nothing can ever exist. No, light is the basis of all formed matter. Know, O man, that all space is filled by worlds within worlds. That is, we are talking about the multidimensionality of space. Deep beneath the image of the pyramid lies my secret. Seek and find in the pyramid that I built. This is not about the material pyramid here. The material pyramid is only a symbol of one of the highest meditations of Buddhi Yoga. That is, it is a meditative image of the pyramid, under which you find that about which Thoth the Atlantean spoke. Follow this key that I left for you. Seek, and the doorway to the true life shall be yours. Seek in my pyramid, deep beneath it, and in the wall. The wall is also one of the highest meditations of Buddhi Yoga. Know that it is in the pyramid I built that you shall find the secret way into the true life. Seek and find there that which I have hidden. Know we that of all, nothing else matters, excepting the growth one can gain as a soul. Know we that the flesh is fleeting. The things men count great are nothing to us. The things we expect from you are not of your bodies, but are only the perfected state of the souls.
Когда вы сможете постигнуть, что ничто, кроме развития души, не
When you learn that
имеет
nothing but
значения,
progress of the soul can count in the end,
тогда только
then
вы
truly
сможете
you are
освободиться
free from all bondage, free to work in accordance with your predestination.
в соответствии со своим человеческим предназначением. Знай,
Know, O man, you are to aim at perfection,
ибо
for only thus
только
can you
так
attain to
можно
the goal.
постичь цель. Знай, что
Know that the
будущее
future
никогда не
is never in
зафиксировано,
fixation,
но оно
but follows man's
определяется
free will.
свободной волей человеческой. Знай, что тело твое, если
Know
оно
that
будет
your
в
body,
совершенном порядке,
when in perfect balance,
никогда
may
не
never be
узнает
touched by the
прикосновения
finger
смерти.
of death.
Поистине
Aye,
даже
even an
случайно
accident may only
всегда
approach
возможно, когда
when you
трудится
abandon your
тобой
predestination.
соответствие твоему предназначению. Пока же
When you are in
соответствие
harmony
твое
with your
безупречно,
predestination,
твоя
you shall live on in
жизнь
time
вернется и
and
не
not
утихнет.
taste of death.
Разве не знаешь ты, что в сердце
Know you not
земли
that in the earth's heart
источник
is the source of
гармонии,
harmony of all things
что
that
существует
exist and
на
have
земле?
been on its face?
Душою
By
ты
the
связан
soul
с
you are
сердцем
connected
земли,
with the earth's heart,
а
and by your
плотью
flesh
с
with
ее
the matter
духом.
of the earth.
Когда ты научишься
When you have
сохранять
learned to
гармонию
maintain
в себе,
harmony in yourself,
тогда
then shall you
сможешь
draw on
действовать
from the
в
harmony
гармонии
of the earth's
с
heart.
земли. Ну,
Well,
наверное, надо
probably
пояснить, о чем
we need to
речь.
clarify what we are
Речь
talking about
идет о
here.
том,
We are talking about that part of the
участке
multidimensional
трехмерного
space
пространства, где
where the
все
earth began to
порождается.
emerge.
Вот это и есть плавный переход
This is a smooth transition
между
between the Creator and the bud of
Творцом
creation
и
that came out of Him.
как бы почкой творения. Исшедшей из него. Вот поэтому
Therefore,
именно в эту
through
точку
this zone in the center of the earth,
в ядре
in its fiery core,
можно
you can find a
найти
passage into its Creator.
в ее Творца. Существовать на земле тогда
Then you will exist on the earth as long as the earth exists,
существует. Изменяясь
changing
местом
bodily
поклонения
only as the earth
поклонения
itself
Земли.
changes.
Не
Not knowing death, in the unity with the planet,
пребывая
staying in your
в
body
обучении,
until everything here
покуда
disappears.
всё здесь не исчезнет.
Three are the qualities of God in His light home,
в доме света, то есть в
that
обители
is,
света.
in the abode of the Creator. Infinite
Беспредельное
power,
могущество,
infinite wisdom,
беспредельная
infinite love.
беспредельная любовь. Тремя
Three are the powers given to spiritual masters:
преобразовывать
to
зло,
transmute evil,
содействовать
to
добру
assist good,
и
to use
спрашивать
discrimination,
способность к развлечению. Развлечению людей
to distinguish people by their quality,
по их
by their
достоинству,
worthiness to approach the Creator.
приближаться к Творцу. Три качества
Three are the
Творца
things they
проявляют
manifest:
силу,
power,
и любовь.
wisdom, and love.
Три
Three
проявления
are the manifestations of Spirit
всё
creating all things:
божественная любовь, обладающая
divine love,
совершенным
possessing the
знанием,
perfect knowledge,
божественная мудрость, имеющая все возможные средства помощи,
divine wisdom, knowing all possible means of helping living beings in their development,
божественная сила, которая
divine power, which is possessed by the primordial consciousness, whose essence is divine love and wisdom. Darkness and light are both of one nature, different only in seeming, for each arose from one source. Darkness is chaos. Light is divine harmony. Darkness transmuted is light. This is, my children, your purpose in being. Transmutation of darkness into light. An analogy is the gunas, tamas, rajas, and sattva. From darkness to light, through the sattva guna, to the abode of the Creator. Abandon your body as I taught you, and go to the deep, hidden limits. Later, Thoth the Atlantean incarnated again in Egypt as Hermes Trismegistus, that is, thrice-born. The latter term concerns not incarnations, but stages of spiritual advancement. The Apostle Philip spoke in detail about this in his Gospel. That is, we are talking about successive births, first in the world of matter, like all people. But those who follow the spiritual path are born in the Holy Spirit, and then in the abode of the Creator. There is a record of an address he made to the Egyptians. This is the same Thoth the Atlantean who became Hermes Trismegistus. I began preaching to people the beauty of religion and knowledge. O people, men born on earth, who indulge in drunkenness, sleep, and the ignorance of God, sober up, cease your surfeit, awake from your dullness. Why do you give yourselves up to death, while you have the power to partake of immortality? Depart from the dark path. Be partakers of immortality. Abandon forever your vices. Nowhere but in God can you find good. There is also a short text written by Hermes himself. It is called the Emerald Tablet. It has the name Emerald Tablet, unlike the name Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean. I say here only truth and nothing else. That which is below is similar to that which is above, and that which is above is similar to that which is below. One has to know this in order to gain the cognition of the marvelous primordial one. It is necessary to explain this,
Очень много фантазий
because there are a lot of fantasies on this topic.
этого высказывания Гермеса. Но речь здесь на самом деле идет
Here,
именно
we are talking about only one of the highest manifestations of Buddhi Yoga.
никаких других.
No other meanings are needed here.
Ну и поясняю,
Well,
что
now,
медитацию я сейчас
I will not explain this meditation,
Ну, потому что, надо
because it's necessary to climb
со ступеньки
step
на ступеньку
by step
забраться, чтобы
in order for it to become visible and understandable.
все материальное
Everything material came into existence by the intent of the primordial one.
все материальные объекты
All material
были
objects
проявленными
became manifest
именно
through densification of energy
единение
by the primordial one.
и единым. Солнце,
The
в
sun,
данном случае речь идет о
that is, in this context, the divine sun,
есть отец
is the
проявленного
father of the manifested world.
лунное.
The moon,
То есть в данном
in this
случае
context,
речь идет
we are talking about the two behind the mirror eons,
прото
Proto-Prakriti and Proto-Purusha,
лунное,
is its mother.
то есть
That is, Proto-Prakriti and Proto-Purusha are the repositories of materials
из которых
from which matter and souls are created, respectively.
души. Святой Дух вынашивает
The Holy Spirit brings up developing souls.
души, а земля
The earth
вскармливает.
nurtures them.
Отец же всего
The Father of all the development
всей
in the
вселенной
entire universe
присутствует всюду.
is present always and everywhere.
Могущество его
His power is the supreme power.
оно
It is supreme to everything else,
и явлено
and it is manifested on the earth in its omnipotence.
Раздели же
Thus divide the earthly and the fiery,
также
the coarse
и
and the subtle.
тонкое. Действуй при этом
Act at that with great caution, awe,
благоговением
and understanding.
и разумением. Став наитончайшим,
Having become the subtlest fire,
познай,
cognize the heavenly.
так совершается.
In this way, you will achieve the emergence.
Затем снова
Then come back to
придешь
the
в
earth,
и будешь
and you will
славно
perceive the
возвещать
subtlest,
и иметь
and will have power to
эффективность
effectively
и
transform
опору
that
в
which is imperfect.
Это будет
This will
означать,
mean
что ты обрел
that you have
славу,
achieved the glory
слияние
of mergence
с
with the
единым,
primordial
то
one,
есть с абсолютом. И
and have
избавился
rid
от
yourself
мрака
of the
неведения.
darkness of ignorance.
Сила
The power of the primordial one is present beneath everything,
и
beneath both the subtlest and the coarse,
и управляет.
and controls them.
Именно таким
It is in this way
существует
that the
всё
creation exists,
И благодаря этой изумительной
and thanks to this marvelous connectedness of everything,
движется.
the development goes on.
Вот почему имя
This is why my name is Hermes Thriceborn,
ибо я существую и действую
for I act in all three planes of existence
и
and possess the wisdom of the entire universe.
итак умолкаю, ибо
Thus, I have said everything I wanted to say
про
about the doing of the sun.
солнца. Вот на этих вот принципах существовало
These principles were the basis of the ancient Egyptian spiritual culture.
потом, как это, к сожалению, бывает со всеми,
But with time, it degraded and disappeared,
она тоже...
as it happens to all spiritual cultures.
Но вот сейчас мы возвращаем эти знания во всей их полноте.
But now we return this knowledge in all fullness to modern people.
Исполните
Fulfill this, and you can then, too, if you wish, call yourself Trismegistus, thrice born. On the earth, then in the Holy Spirit, and in the abode of the Creator. Though the main thing is spiritual achievements rather than names and titles.
Ну вот продолжу. Еще один великий божественный учитель.
Another great divine teacher is Adler.
Который руководил
He led and directed the spiritual work in Atlantis. Let me cite his words about this. Atlantis was my work. From the very beginning till the end, I created the spiritual culture of Atlantis. From there, it moved partly to Egypt. I took worthy people with me and led them into myself. Incarnation after incarnation, wave after wave. Thus I incarnated there several times. One can find more details about this in our book, Classics of Spiritual Philosophy and the Present. The potential of the spiritual schools of Atlantis allowed many people to approach divinity,
значительно продвинуться духовно и
or even to achieve it.
слияние с изначальным сознанием, с Творцом. Среди них лично мы
Among them we know Cairo,
Ира,
Nikifor,
Кифора,
Odin,
Дина,
Nikolai Nekrasov.
это я
For more details, I refer to the book Classics of Spiritual Philosophy and the Present.
И вот после гибели
After the destruction of Atlantis, many divine Atlanteans brought higher spiritual knowledge to Egypt and other countries.
Многие из них, более того, воплощались
Moreover, many of them incarnated among people
в качестве
as Messiah's
аватаров.
avatars.
И вот об этом
For example, Odin said the following about this. I'm going to tell you about the Aesir. This term is from Scandinavia. It was used to name the former Atlanteans incarnated there. They were Atlanteans who assumed responsibility for the destiny of people on the earth after the destruction of Atlantis. There were not many, but their lifespan was much longer than that of other people living on the earth at the time. They lived in the body for 300 to 500 years. It was normal for the Atlanteans. People remembered them as gods, coming down from the heavens and ruling the earth. They would come to the earth again and again, taking mortal women for wives, and this would bind them to the material plane. Yet in every incarnation, they would bring their new mortal bodies to the fullness of the divine awareness. As bright suns of divine consciousness, they guided the life on the earth. I was one of them. For many lives I came to the creation, and every time connected the embodied part of my self-consciousness with the consciousness of the Creator. We learned about Atlantis and the life of the Atlanteans from Cairo. The name Cairo, by the way, in Atlantis meant earth as a living organism. He said that the name of the capital of Egypt has the same origin, although there are other opinions of embodied people. Here is what Cairo said. I was one of the 5 Atlantean rulers. There was a group of 5 rulers, elders, and I was its leader. I represented the temporal power which possessed spiritual knowledge. The history of civilization, the history of spiritual life on the earth, is more ancient than modern people think it is. Atlantis was not the beginning of the spiritual development on the earth. It was only one of its big stages. Many times the configuration of the oceans and continents changed, and every time the dweller of the depths created new conditions for growth and development of souls. The story of Atlantis can be useful for modern people. Adler, Thoth, and I can tell everything important of it. In Atlantis, there existed a great civilization. The leaders of that society possessed the highest spiritual knowledge. The leaders of society who direct the spiritual growth of people bear great responsibility. Even the smallest deviation from the principles of divine love and selflessness may become a turning to the abyss where one loses the connection with the Creator. This is exactly what happened in Atlantis. The power was taken over by selfish people, and God decided to end this period of the development of consciousness on the earth, to destroy Atlantis. I will tell you also about the temple. The image of a temple is not a human invention. The temple is a divine structure in the multidimensional organism of a living planet. Its most close equivalent is Shambhala, that is, the place inside the planet where divine consciousnesses live in the highest spatial dimension. It has an exit to the boundless ocean of the Creator's consciousness. The temple is the epicenter of the creation of life on the planet. It is the place where abide those who supervise the development of life on this islet of the divine creation. The temple has an exit and an entrance. This divine structure in the multidimensional organism of the earth is as real as the Kundalini in the multidimensional organism of man. In the atmic component of the human organism, there are memories about the past incarnations. It is the same case with the temple. By submerging into the temple, one can learn about important episodes of the planet's life. For example, one can read the pages of the history of Atlantis to learn about the Atlanteans of spirit, about Adler, Thoth, and others who interwove themselves as consciousnesses into the life of the planet for the sake of the development of consciousnesses growing on the earth. Originally, all rulers of Atlantis throughout centuries had the keys to the temple. That is, they lived coming out as Brahmanic consciousnesses from the temple and had the ability to immerse and to dissolve their divine individualities in the ocean of the Creator's consciousness. In this way, the Atlantean civilization was guided and developed. Pyramids and other earthly temples are but a reflection of the temple where the initiation of souls was performed. Every planet is created as a densification of the energy of consciousness up to the material plane. Then there starts the process of the development of life in material carriers. The souls incarnated in Atlantis had gone through incarnations on other planets. They were well-advanced souls, but not divine yet. The majority of the Atlanteans lived being aware of themselves as souls, rather than material bodies. They enjoyed the intense feelings of life in a physical body. The power of such feelings is much more impressive than a paradisical life without a body. This power of feelings was delightful for souls who lived for a long time in the non-incarnate state. They lived in the states close to samadhi, and one could call it a paradise on the earth. For many of them, it was the last or prior to last incarnation, and the conditions were quite favorable for attainment of divinity by them. The Atlantean educational system included the skills of psychical self-regulation, the knowledge about the structure of the multidimensional universe, ethics and different kinds of art, and creativity in science and technology, which were developed to a high level. In the culture of the Atlanteans, great importance was attached to creativity. For those who had chosen for themselves the realization of the highest meaning of life, the cognition of the Creator, there were spiritual initiations. This type of education was closed, esoteric. It was accessible only to those who understood the higher meaning and purpose of their lives. Among their teachers, there were divine souls possessing material bodies, which are used as instruments of divine creativity in such cases. The long existence of the Atlantean civilization allowed many paradisical souls to complete the cycle of evolution and to merge into the Creator. They did not need to incarnate again anymore. As for the Atlanteans, who, upon receiving physical bodies, chose the path of material self-gratification, through sex in particular, through them new human races were created. Such races consisted of people who were currently growing as consciousnesses on this planet. They were new shoots of young souls that had to go through the long process of evolution. Such a mixture of races resulted in many legends and myths about gods in different nations. Elizabeth Hayes described very precisely that in that time on the earth there were races of people with very different levels of development of consciousnesses and bodies. The mixture of these races through sex and the birth of offspring significantly accelerated the process of evolution. As for those who achieve mergence with the Creator, they have never incarnated again, except for a few who chose to take care of the new generations of people. Among the latter are those who wished, together with Adler, to guide people on the path of self-realization and cognition of the divine oneness. They incarnated again and again, bringing to people the knowledge about the highest. All this is a very long process taking millennia. You will have a chance to participate in it too. Let me finish this conversation with the following words of Adler. It is the traditions of Atlantis that Pythagoras wanted to restore through his school. And we try to do this today with your help. The world of divine souls is willing to tell people about humanity's main and most significant tasks for the evolution of consciousnesses. This includes the stage of transformation of the consciousness soul into a spiritual heart. When man-animal becomes truly man. It is the stage when one begins to learn divinity. So, practically, what do we need to do in order to fulfill the will of God, announced through Thoth the Atlantean, Hermes Trismegistus? After all, there is nothing in what he said which is different from what other divine teachers say. They say the same thing, that we need to be ethically purified. What does this mean? This means, first of all, to get rid of egocentric emotions and motives, and to get rid of rudeness and violence. Of course, one must also understand the general strategy
духовного.
of spiritual advancement of a person.
Ну а дальше,
And after that,
дальше нужно делать
next,
опять
what needs to be
именно
done
то, к чему всегда нас от начала до конца призывали и будут
is what the divine teachers have called for and will call for,
развивать себя.
to develop ourselves as spiritual hearts.
Вот если мы научились жить сначала в анахате,
If we have learned to live in the Anahata Chakra,
светить из
to
нее
shine from it
на окружающий
into the world around us,
и воспринимать окружающий мир
and to perceive the world around us
эту чакру,
through this chakra,
то мы сможем обрести
then we can
мир
find
покоя,
peace,
без которого нам ничего
without
не
which
удастся
we will not be able to do anything on the spiritual path.
ту самую
So,
стихию.
we can find that same Hesychia.
И научимся
Then we learn to embrace God with ourselves.
Бога. Постепенно
Gradually, we will learn this.
мы должны сформироваться в качестве духовного сердца внутри.
First, we must form ourselves as spiritual hearts within our bodies.
Когда мы ее перерастаем, мы
When we outgrow them, we break out of them.
в какую
To what direction? Backwards.
легче всего во всех отношениях и
The easiest and most correct way,
с точки
from the
зрения
point of view of
сознания,
refining the
это
consciousness,
выходить врываться
is to go out,
попадать, вылезать.
break out, fall backwards from anahatas.
И вот там мы будем ощущать себя
And there, we will already feel ourselves as larger and larger spiritual hearts.
сердце. Сначала мы можем для этого заполнять
First, we can fill cocoons of trees,
или просто пышущих своей жизненной силой растений.
or other plants with a refined energy.
Потом мы научимся,
Then we will learn to perceive the divine teachers,
в том числе
including Thoth the Atlantean
или Hermes
or Hermes Trismegistus.
как
Either name is fine.
сейчас он
However, currently, he prefers that we call him Thoth the Atlantean.
поэтому и обращаться к нему.
Therefore, it makes sense to turn to him with this name.
И вот просторы
Open spaces can help us.
нам, просторы,
Open spaces of the sea,
просторы
open spaces of the steppes, deserts, etc.
для того, чтобы разливаться,
In order to spread over them with spiritual hearts,
причем обязательно с ласкающими руками.
always with hands caressing everything living,
Сначала в
first
творении,
in the creation.
и вот так вот
Later,
эти руки
having developed these hands of love,
потом обнимать, ласкать
we can embrace the Holy Spirits with them.
святых духов. Потом
And then the Creator in His abode.
на помощь приходят, например,
For example, such meditations as pyramid and temple will be of help.
но все это, разумеется, лучше всего делать на
But all of this, of course, is best done on energetically significant places. Such places are called positive places of power, that is, the working sites of our divine teachers. If this is done in an environment consisting of unfavorable energy, then nothing will work. Therefore, one must actively seek places of power that are favorable for each stage of spiritual growth.
Для каждого этапа, для каждой большой медитации
For each stage, for each big meditation, you can find adequate places of power.
их может быть в арсенале каждого духовного искателя.
There can be tens and hundreds of them in the arsenal of every spiritual seeker.
Но для того, чтобы легче в этом ориентироваться,
In order to make it easier to navigate this,
могу посоветовать приобрести наш
I can advise you to use our video,
места силы.
Places of Power.
Мы его формируем как приложение к книге «Лесные лекции» о высшей йоге.
We have formed it as an appendix to the book Forest Lectures on Higher Yoga.
Ну и вот напомню, что
I'll also remind you that Elizabeth Heish,
которая прошла весь этот путь,
who traveled this entire path and also became a divine teacher,
учась прежде всего у божественного Птахотепа,
learning first of all from divine Tahotep,
вот она однажды ощутила себя.
once felt like a pyramid.
Что это значит?
What does this mean?
Это значит, что она заполнила собою медитативный
It means that she filled herself with the meditative image of the pyramid.
И вот тот Атлант предлагает
And Thoth the Atlantean offers this meditation,
заполнение
filling the pyramid
собою
with oneself.
пирамиды. Как?
How?
А вот надо в образ пирамиды выплыть из анахаты.
It is necessary to swim back from the anahata of the body
И
into the image of the pyramid and fill the pyramid.
вершина ее пусть будет
Let its top be in infinite heights,
основание
and let its base be very deep, as if on the other side of our planet.
А дальше нужно
And then you need to look for further keys, as Thoth the Atlantean wrote.
искать где.
Where should you search? Under the pyramid.
Ну, разумеется, за
Of course, this meditation cannot be mastered in just one day or so.
требуется именно постепенный рост
A
сознания,
gradual growth of the consciousness is required,
который может длиться месяц.
which can last for months and years.
Но ради
But
обретения
for the sake of gaining divinity, for the sake of getting out of the wheel of
ради
samsara,
того, чтобы стать
in order to become like our divine teachers,
и тоже с их уровня развития
and to help incarnate people
посвященным людям,
from their level,
ради этого
it's worth
стоит
working hard for this,
этому стоит
and it's worth dedicating one's life.
Но еще более совершенная медитация,
Even more perfect than pyramid
это
is the meditation called temple.
пирамиду можно
That is,
рассматривать как
pyramid can be considered as a particular option, preparing one
более
for the more perfect meditation
медитации
called temple.
храм.
A temple, which one?
Ну вот такой, каковы, например, православные храмы.
Like those of the Orthodox churches.
Можно из анахаты
You can swim from Anahata backwards to the dome of the temple
и заполнить его
and
собой.
fill it with yourself.
Потом оказывается, что
Then it turns out
сама
that under the dome
храма
is the very space of the temple, and it is huge.
постепенно
So, we gradually grow,
заполняет.
filling the entire temple.
И это тоже не
And this too is not done in one day.
когда мы
When we have learned to easily fill the entire temple,
огромный, как
as huge as the pyramid that I spoke about,
то оказывается, что есть.
it turns out that there's also the sub-temple.
А если сделать два
And if you make
храма
two temples,
справа и
on the right and on the left,
и взять каждый из них на ладонь
and take each of them into the palm of your hand
из-под храма,
from the sub-temple,
а между
then,
руками,
as you know,
как известно,
our anahatas become located there,
анахата,
in its natural place between our hands.
развивая
By thus
себя,
developing yourself as a spiritual heart,
просто. Очень просто.
it becomes very simple to enter the mergence with the Creator in His abode.
Чем отличается медитация пирамиды?
What is the difference between the pyramid meditation and the temple meditation?
Тем, что мы пересекаем зеркало с помощью
Namely,
медитации
that we can cross the mirror
естественно.
through the temple meditation in a natural way.
Медитация пирамида не столь
The
удобна
pyramid meditation is not so convenient
такой
for
работе,
such work on oneself,
и мы можем оказаться в первом брахманическом проявлении.
In order to navigate the eons in the structure of the Absolute, I advise you to get acquainted with our book, Eco-Psychology. There, at the end, we give a scheme for studying the structure of the Absolute. Then, all this will become clear. So, what am I talking about now? Namely, that there are two options for verticality. Physical verticality and meditative verticality. Physical verticality is a geometric line from above to the center of the planet. And meditative verticality is somewhat different. It is inclined. If you feel yourself in a chaise lounge, or, more interestingly, in a dentist's chair, modern chairs have a back angle of about 45 degrees. So if we feel ourselves in a dentist's chair or in a chaise lounge, then this meditative verticality will be perpendicular to the lying body. It is very important to master this at the highest stages of meditative work. This meditative principle was presented to us by Divine Surya. What is this for? This helps us to learn how to easily and naturally cross the same mirror. And in particular, one can recall what Juan Matus, Don Juan, taught. He taught that a spiritual warrior must learn to cross the entire range of emanations, and very quickly, instantly. Now, if we master such a meditative verticality, then this makes it easy to cross all eons, from hell, that is, external darkness, outside of God and the aspect of the Absolute, to the abode of the Creator. This, in fact, is done very quickly and easily. We must pull ourselves to the border with hell. You should not climb there. You just need to know where it is, where to look for it. And from there, relaxing, we can flop into the abode of the Creator, as if into the ocean of divine fire, and dissolve into His beatitude. This is how the teachings of Thoth the Atlantean and all divine teachers are realized. What is wonderful is that they describe these teachings of the growth of souls, which are the same for the whole universe, in slightly different words, giving slightly different instructions on specific meditative methods for developing ourselves. Each of them sought to give us their personal favorite meditative methods. So we have built a scheme, a ladder, if you will, along which you can reach the abode of the Creator, in order to become Him and help other evolving souls from Him. I invite you to this path. Come on, friends. This film was created and directed by Dr. Vladimir Antonov. It was narrated in English by Keenan Murphy.